Hello, Katie dear. I wanted to begin this session by telling you the story of Blodeuwedd. She is the Welsh goddess of spring or summer, and she is a hybrid human. Blodeuwedd was created, her name means Flowerface, and she is made of flowers. Um, so she was created because a young prince by the name of Lugh needed a wife, and his mother refused to endorse or to present a wife to him. And so his father uh, created one for him, and that's Blodeuwedd. And they got married, Lugh and Blodeuwedd, and went to live in his estate and so on. Now, these are all fairy people, keep that in mind. And so Lugh liked being married to Blodeuwedd, but he liked hunting better. So he and his pals would go riding and hunting, and they'd leave Blodeuwedd at home. She was a plant. She was made of plant material, but she apparently had emotional feelings. Anyway, one day, Blodeuwedd was pining at the window pane, and a fella came along, just got lost, and he showed up at the house, and they took up together, and one thing led to another, and before you know it, Blodeuwedd was planning with her new gentleman caller to be rid of Lugh, so that the gentleman caller could come more frequently and stay longer, apparently. So they concocted a way to get rid of Lugh. But Lugh, being a magical creature, could not only be killed in one fashion, and nobody knew what the secret to that was. So Blodeuwedd wanted to come up with a way to get to that information, and so she cajoled and pleaded and cried and everything else until Lugh told her the magical formula for how they could kill it. Now here comes the riddle. There's always riddles in these stories, and his was about how the formula for his death was not by land nor by sea, not on the back of beast nor something else, and I'll have to look that part up for you. Anyway, on a particular day, like I think it was Ascension Sunday or some holy day, um, Blodeuwedd says to Lugh, "Oh, honey, I just am so worried about you when you're out hunting and shooting. I'm afraid you're going to get hurt." And he said, "Don't worry about me. You can't hurt me. I'm protected." And she said, "Well, you told me that there was a way that you could be hurt." "Well," he says, "nobody can do that." And she said, "Well, how exactly does that work?" And so on this conversation went. And it ended up with Lugh taking Blodeuwedd to this particular place on this particular day and actually demonstrating for her all the things that would have to happen, improbable as it was, according to him, to realize his death. And so he's got this old bathtub stretched across a creek bed, and he's got one foot on a goat and one foot on the bathtub, and he's standing there. And of course, the boyfriend is watching from the nearest woods, and the boyfriend is quite an archer himself. And just as Lugh is demonstrating to her, you see, this is not by land, not by sea, and so on and so forth. Bing comes the arrow, and right through the heart, and Lugh crashes to the ground, and the guilty couple runs off into the sunset to live happily ever after. Well, that's hardly where the story ends. Local people discovered that Lugh hadn't been galloping around the countryside. They kind of missed him. And at the same time, one of the farmers who raised pigs discovered that his pigs would go into the woods and they'd be gone for a long time, and they'd come back and have a strange smell. And sometimes they had truffles in their mouth. And the farmer thought, what is there out there that these pigs keep going to look for? And so he followed the pigs one day. And sure enough, he came upon this magical tree that grew a special kind of mushroom under it. And up in the branches of the tree was this huge, beautiful bird, an eagle. Well, that was a clue. So he ran back to the village and he ran to the castle where Lou's father lived, and he told the father, Lou hasn't been around for a while, and there's this bird, and there's these mushrooms, and there's that tree, and so on, and I think you better check it out. So the dad gets himself all together, and he goes to see what's going on with this pig and this tree and this bird. And he gets there and he looks up and he knows this is no ordinary bird. And the bird falls out of the tree into the arms of the dad. And the dad recognizes, this is my son and he's been wounded. So he takes the bird back to his castle and he nurses him back to health and restores him to his human form. And that's when he hears the story of what Blodeuwedd has done. And so then he and his men, the dad that is, and Lou and his men, descend upon the castle of Blodeuwedd, whereupon she sees them coming and she grabs up her 9 handmaidens and they run toward the nearest body of water, which happens to be a large pond. And the men run the women into the pond, and all the women drowned except for Blodeuwedd. She floats, she becomes a white owl, and she roars into the sky, where she still roams the nights, screeching. So that's the wonderful story of Blodeuwedd, the goddess of summer. Actually, Lou's the god of summer, and her claim to fame is that she kills summer. So when her reign is over in the seasonal year, then we have fall and winter. And that's the story of Caradwen, which is for another time. Thanks for listening.